all our Goyans, if you don't mind, could you come up front towards the tables up here? All of Goya. Chris. Crazy Chris. Crazy Chris. Chris Triandafilo. Chris, get them all to come up. Our Goyans, if you guys can all come up, move up to these tables.
Find their names on this board.
Find your name on the board over here. What's that? I wanted to get them to come up more, to be up in the front here versus the back when people speak.
Should I get it?
Yeah, if you're gonna. That's Dr. Haddad right there.
All the ones right here, come on, move it. On your phone. On your phone. Put your jackets down.
Okay. Where's Father Michael?
Yeah, you're gonna.
Do we need another mic? How many mics do we have here right now? You need another?
Why?
Do you like
No.
Okay, we're good there.
I think once we're done, we could bring it. We can take it off.
Dr. Haddad. This is you have to sit up over here.
Should we enforce that because they're all sitting like, see what they're doing?
Yeah.
That's not what we want to do.
Okay, you got to explain it to
So
them.
what we could say is, why don't you let them eat? Are you ready to do this?
We want to start at like 7:15.
So say, if you get a chance before 7:15, please come up to the board and look at where you should be sitting for the first round.
Yeah. Students. No, I know. Students, just come up to the board, find your name, and then go to that table. That'll just be the first table when we start the networking part of the night. So we can get everybody more spread out. Is that good? All right. If you don't find your name there, then that means you didn't sign up. So you're going to have to sign up, and then you're going to go to a table. All right. Thank you. Do you like to hold it, or do you like it in here?
Either way.
All right. Because I have some notes.
Okay. Let them get settled, and then we'll start. No, it's okay. I'm good. No, I'm good. Good, man.
I didn't know we had to sign up.
It's good. Just go. There's someone over there. Okay. Right. If they're not signed up,
If you're not signed up, there's a QR code. Guys, if you're not signed up, just tap the QR code. Just tap it, fill it up your back of your table. If you don't see your name, just go to any table.
How was our turn? How was our turnout for boy?
It was pretty good.
Good,
Started really filling in nicely.
Good. It's a pretty good crowd right now.
No, the room is full.
Yeah. You have to go. They came in?
Yeah.
They came over. Oh my Lord. Perfect timing. That couldn't have been more perfect.
Because I think he understood we wanted to collect.
Yeah.
So that's why we might, I still don't know if I'm going to charge us an extra $150 to do December 7th.
Let's see. We'll say a little prayer. We'll get them going. It's a pretty good turnout, huh?
Yeah, and people miss so come. Who is this young lady again?
That's that's Kathy Drennis's daughter. We're doing her wedding in May. I think in May.
Did you know the couple?
I knew them from St. Nick's. Yeah, I left it on your desk. Where you saw it?
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
just surprised by it.
Yeah. So Nick, should we start? Should we start? Okay. Did you say a prayer for the food? Okay. If we could just stand up for a brief prayer. Do the blessing too.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. Glory to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, both now and forever, and to the ages of ages. Amen.
Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy. Father, give the blessing.
Lord Jesus Christ, our God, bless the food and drink that we are about to partake of and that we have partaken of. Spread these gifts throughout the world to all those who suffer and are in need, and open the gates of repentance that each and every one of us may prepare for Holy Lent appropriately as we begin on Monday, and enlighten each of these young adults and each of these mentors with your will so that they may glorify God with success in their careers and success in their families and success in their spiritual lives. Amen.
Please be seated. I want to share a few comments as we open tonight. First, I'm indebted tremendously to our two new chairpersons of this committee, Jeff Klein. Jeff, where is he? Over here. And Nick Kutsoftis over here. And because of their efforts, we're able to elevate what is offered here in for this Lions Networking Night. About 6 years ago, when we first started attending the Archangel Michael Church, we felt a real need for our young people to understand real ministry in the sense of connecting the importance of the community of the church to the everyday lives that we live. And this mentoring program gives us a real sense of the power of the community. Because in our churches, we have tremendous professionals in very different aspects of vocations that are really want and here to help and support and guide and see our next generation find their spark in life, to discover what God's will is in their life, and to find their vocation and to go for it with courage, with God's wisdom, with power and strength. And I want to just read this one little passage. It comes from St. Peter's letter, chapter 4. And it just, asks us that in the importance for us to be serious in discipline. Therefore, be serious and discipline yourselves for the sake of your prayers. Above all, maintain constant love for one another, for love covers over a multitude of sins. Be hospitable to one another without complaining. Like good stewards of the manifold grace of God, serve one another with whatever gift each of you has received. Whoever speaks must do so as one speaking the very words of God. Whoever serves must do so with the strength that God supplies, so that God may be glorified in all things through Jesus Christ, to whom belong glory, power, and forever to the ages of ages. Amen. And when one of the words for finding our career is vocation. In the mid-centuries, vocation was only referred to those who found a calling to serve God through either clergy or monasticism. Vocation then later on took on a greater spectrum of finding your will, of the God's will in your life to find what career you will have, but connected to God as the person who is the giver of that grace and the one that gives you the wisdom to pursue that career. And one of our great struggles that we have in life is trying to figure out, what is my vocation? What does God want me to do, and what do I want to do? And tonight, hopefully, with with our presenters and with all the mentors that are here tonight, we will hopefully be a stepping stone towards the steps that you will take in your vocation. Without any further ado, I want to turn it over to our chairperson, our co-chair, Nick Kramezos.
Thank you, Father. Wow, I didn't even speak yet. I didn't even start speaking. So as Father mentioned, my name is Nick Kramezos, and for those of you that don't know, my wife Eleni and I were married at Archangel Michael, the original Archangel Michael, almost 24 years ago. I'm from Queens, St. D, Jamaica, and Eleni is local. She's actually, from Alberton and went to Herrick's. She actually fulfilled my childhood dream of marrying a Greek girl from Long Island. So that was, pretty good. We have 3 boys, Teddy, who's down in Atlanta at Georgia Tech, our senior Augusta, who's now going through that, tough process of trying to figure out what college to go to, and Nico, our 8th grader, who's kind of, in the back there. But he had a fake ID to get into the event, so... and we're all very blessed to be part of this community. But first, I want to say thank you to Father John for your vision and for making this ministry strong and such an important and meaningful part of our church. Thank you to Jeff Klein and all the other members of the committee who helped structure our mission statement and our framework and who helped organize tonight. And to all of you, the mentors, who without, all of this great participation, we just wouldn't be here tonight. So a few days ago, I received an email inviting me to my high school's 30-year reunion. Yes, that made me feel very old. But it also made me think about all the things that were built or invented over the past 30 years. Let's go down the list a little bit. The iPhone, Apple Music, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, the Facebook, high definition TV, self-parking cars, hybrid cars, GPS, the internet, AKA the World Wide Web, texting, Netflix, flat screen TVs, DVDs, Uber, Yeezy sneakers, the International Space Station, Bitcoin, and new vaccine. The list goes on and on. But we'll talk more about those in a minute. So even though I grew up in Queens, I commuted to Brooklyn Tech High School in Fort Greene and studied architecture there. And a little before graduation, I realized that's not really what I wanted to do in college. So I went to the University of Massachusetts in Amherst and studied industrial engineering. My first job out of school was with GE, General Electric, in Schenectady, New York. But after working as an engineer for a few years, I went back to school and got my MBA in finance from NYU. I now work at an asset management company called Cohen & Steers in New York City, where I manage a portfolio of commodities. So what does that mean? I invest in physical assets like gold and silver, oil and natural gas, wheat, sugar, cotton, live cattle and feeder cattle, corn, nickel, zinc, and the list goes on and on. Has anybody seen the movie Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd? All the adults, none of the young kids. All right, rent it. If you're 18 or over, I think. Anyway, so I went from GE, designing steam turbines that power plants use to generate electricity, to buying commodities. And if you're watching the news lately, you might imagine the kind of days and nights that I've had. Some of these commodities, like crude oil, trade almost 24 hours a day. So with every headline that comes out about what's going on in the very unfortunate situation in the Ukraine, I wake up, figure out, is oil going to be up 10% or down 10%? It's been a, roller coaster. But 30 years ago, I never thought I'd be doing what I'm doing now. My work has taken me to 46 states, 26 countries, and 6 continents. I've toured gold and copper mines from Canada to Chile to Brazil, been on deep water drilling rigs in the Gulf of Mexico, toured chemical refineries in India, spoke at conferences from Europe to Dubai to Australia, and even attended 2 OPEC meetings in Vienna. But when I started engineering, my first engineering job at GE on July 17, 1995, I never thought I would be here telling you this story. The path is never straight and can be filled with a lot of uncertainty. We're all here today to shed some light on that path, to provide some guidance. But it's up to you, the students, to seize every one of these opportunities. Don't focus right now on where you can make the most money. Find something you're passionate about, and the compensation will follow. Now think about the list of things that were invented over the past 30 years, and imagine the endless possibilities that are in front of you. I'm not saying you'll all become inventors, but don't be afraid to think outside of the box. And while the world is constantly inventing new things, you should all be constantly reinventing yourselves, thinking with an open mind and realizing what you see today will not be what the world looks like in 30 years. So speaking of this event, my oldest son, Teddy, participated in 2019, where he met Peter Gerazunas, a member of our church and also a mentor to multiple students, who gave him the opportunity with his engineering firm that summer to intern there based on some of the skills that Teddy had learned in high school. So for all of you students, you may not find the perfect match today. A mentor doesn't even have to be in your field of interest, especially if you're not sure what that career interest is. I think of tonight's event as a building block so that we can grow our database for mentors and mentees, and then act as matchmakers to facilitate fruitful interactions in the future. And for all the mentors, remember, mentoring is not just about paid internships. It's about shedding that light on these young students' paths. We have an awesome panel of speakers who will share their experiences, as well as take a few questions at the end. And then we'll get into the networking portion of the night, where the students are going to rotate every 20 minutes. We're going to rotate from the different tables. You all have a starting point. It looks like everybody's pretty well spread out. But it's to give everybody the opportunity to learn about different professions. I mean, most of you, we asked you to list 3, maybe some of you didn't even have 1. But this is about just opening up your minds and learning about different professions. So tonight we have lawyers, architects, bankers, doctors, teachers, pharmacists, technology experts, accountants, electricians. We have our clergy too, so that's also an occupation that you can follow. Engineers, speech therapists, designers. Learn from all of these people. They have decades of experience to share. Enjoy tonight, and please reach out to myself or Jeff Klein with any questions. So we'll turn it over to Maria.
Okay. Do I need to move this, or can you all hear me? Good? Okay. So basically, my career can be summed up as lost and confused. I am now, as you've heard, I'm sure seen on multiple of the flyers, I am an FPGA electrical engineer at L3 Harris, which is a defense contracting company all over the place. And I'm very happy with where I am right now, but it definitely took me a little bit of a curveball to get there and figure that out. So I'm going to talk about, you can ask me questions about my job, but I'm also going to focus more so on my path in engineering because it's so broad, and the new hire process after. So I chose electrical engineering because I loved math and science, and I was way too squeamish for the medical field. I give those who are in that field lots of props. And so I took a circuits class and fell in love with it, and I chose electrical engineering, and it was also great because it's a super broad engineering and you can do a lot with it. Your parents aren't going to look at you and be like, you're not going to get a job after this. So it was great that it was so broad, but it was also a little bit kind of came around to bite me in the butt a little bit when I was looking for a job, because then I was like, okay, now what exactly am I doing? And the only way that you're going to find out is to keep putting yourself out there to experience everything as much as you can. And I'm a big advocate for the co-op program. So as a lot of you are probably have already experienced or will experience, when you're trying to get your first job, the one thing you're going to hear all of the time is, we want experience. And you're like, well, how do I get it if no one will give me the chance? Well, the co-op program at my school helped give you that extra little push and those connections to get that first job and get hired as an experienced individual. And basically what it is so I graduated college in 5 years instead of 4. And I took semesters off where like I worked a full-time job and then went back to classes. So I graduated with the work experience. And I got a lot of also experiences in different areas of electrical engineering. I worked at a design firm where I got familiarity with lighting plans. It was the first time I like saw how, you know, everything was laid out, the thought process that went behind everything. Also different skills like AutoCAD and different things future companies might want. My second co-op was at a general contracting company, and I got to, again, work a little bit more so with construction and also calling a lot of subcontractors and figuring things out. And my last job was at an RF radio frequencies, like so wireless communications type company. And that's when I realized more so, okay, like I'm kind of leaning towards more the tech side of electrical engineering than the construction side. And so when applying for my jobs, that's kind of what I was looking for. And so, yeah, I kept applying, and I heard back a whole lot of nothing. And so it was very intimidating because I also realized I was lucky to even get a rejection. Most companies, like I would hear nothing back, like absolute nada. And I realized that can be discouraging to a lot of people, but I'm here to tell you that it happens to everybody. Please keep applying. And don't like be embarrassed to get rejected or be like, oh, I applied to these 60 companies last month and it's like heard nothing. Like it genuinely happens. But even my own company that I'm working for now made me think they rejected me. I applied online to like maybe 3 or 4 different positions and got my email confirmations that I had applied. And then when I went back to check on my application statuses, they were completely gone from the system. So my first thought was, wow, I was that bad. They not only felt the need to reject me, they removed me from the system. And I really genuinely thought that at that moment. And so that was how my process felt and how it was going. And it was really discouraging. And it also doesn't help when you have, your ever-loving grandparents who want to know how you're doing, what's going on, how's the job process, and you have to reiterate every other day how no one still wants to hire you. And anyways, so funnily enough, everything kind of fell into place towards the end of my college career. I was taking a digital system design class just for fun. It looked interesting. And basically, I got introduced for the first time to FPGAs, which are these little integrated circuits that you can program to have them do many different things. And the reason why they're so valued in the engineering world is because they're not set to program specifically to do one certain function. You can keep reprogramming them. And I don't know if any of you remembered on the old iPods, when you could play this game where there was this bar that you moved back and forth and had to keep the ball up. That was what we were doing for class, and it was super fun, and I had a great time with it. But I had no idea what careers even that was even an option, and also as I didn't have much experience in it either, so I wasn't confident to pursue jobs in it. So I just focused on the stuff that I was experienced in and hoping I would hear from somebody. And then the Stevens Career Fair happened, and it was a virtual career fair, and I honestly didn't have high hopes for it. The one in the fall didn't go good for me. Now it's spring. I was like, how is it going to be any different? And I had three different recruiters from L3 Harris waiting to talk to me, and I was so blown away. And originally they were paying attention to me because of my experience with like wireless communications. And so they were like talking to me about that. And so I was like, okay, let's go, finally hearing something. And I had a recruiter, they put me in touch with a different recruiter, and he was just talking to me. It was like, he was asking me, why electrical engineering? Why this, why that? And then what are you interested in? And so even though I already had experience in one area, he was like listening to me about my genuine interests. And when I expressed interest in FPGA and everything like that, he was just like, honestly, that's enough to get you in the door, because if you're interested, that means you're willing to learn. And that's what almost everybody starts as at any job. So, and that was how I ended up with my job offer from L3 Harris. And my whole point of this is it's okay to be rejected. Don't be discouraged. Keep applying, and it will all work out. And that is all. Oh, does anybody have questions as I do that now, right? Or do everybody speak? I don't know. Oh, yeah. Stevens Institute of Technology. Nerd school, yeah.
Pick this up a little bit. How's everybody doing tonight? Thank you guys for spending a Friday night with us and learning about the different professions, right? My name is George Patilis. I am co-founder and managing director of a company called Tpg Rewards, right? Tpg Rewards, what is it that we do? As I mentioned, we're a promotional marketing company. We work with brands to make their ideas come alive, right? So many people, they think about marketing and they think about advertising specifically, right? And there's a difference between advertising and promotional marketing. Advertising is something where brands invest billions and billions of dollars in to kind of create images and feelings about how you feel about that brand. Promotional marketing is something where creates an immediate impact in sales, right? So we'll talk about more about what that is and how that works and what my company does. But what I wanted to share with you is my journey and how I got here, right? So I am been part of the AMC community for 15 years. I grew up in the Bronx, went to Zodocos PE, went to Columbus High School in the Bronx, where there they had career fairs and had people come and chat with us about different careers in accounting and advertising, so forth and so on. Always found that very interesting, and it always had an impact on me. I remembered it. It registered with me, and I'm hoping that some of the things that we're talking with you about tonight register with you and could have an effect later on down the road as you start to think about the careers and the paths that you're going to take. I think the overwhelming theme that you're going to hear from us tonight is that the path is never a straight path to where you're going to get to, right? It's always a path. It's always a path of twists and turns, right? Some good days, some bad days, but ultimately you have to work, persevere, and just get through it, right? So after Christopher Columbus High School in the Bronx, I went to St. John's University. I see Franciscados right there, proud alum, right? And when I was at St. John's, it was time to decide on a major. So I sat down with my dad. I said, hey, Dad, I'm going to St. John's. What do you think I should major in? He goes, you know what? Accounting is a great field for you, right? I took an accounting class. I hated it, right? Sat down with my dad again. I go, Dad, I don't like accounting. It's just not me, right? What do you think I should major in? So he says, you know what? Computer science is a great field. It's growing. You can't go wrong with computer science. So I said, all right, that's a great idea. I was interested in computers, right? Great idea. I took my first class, computer science. I was like, wow, this is great. I think I can do this, right? Took the second class over the summer. I go into class, sitting down. The professor is giving instruction, turn the computer on, right? That's easy enough for me. I press the button, right? Make the computer turn yellow and black. And I'm seeing these kids hack away, keystrokes. Everything's turning yellow and black. Make the computer beep. And I'm looking to myself saying, hey, I thought I was supposed to learn this semester, right? So everybody's, light years ahead of where I am as it relates to computer science. And I quickly said to myself, you know what? Let me cut my losses pretty quickly. Raised my hand. Professor said, yeah. I go, I can't do this. I'm out of here, right? So again, sat down, chatted with my dad. I said, Dad, accounting didn't work. Computer science didn't work. What do you think I should major in? He's like, hey, the rest is up to you. You figure it out on your own, So that's when I went into marketing. I read up on it. I learned about marketing, and I found that it fit my personality, right? It fit what I envisioned myself doing. And the more I learned about it, the more I began to dream about some of those things, right? I wanted to be that guy that sat down with corporations and brands to advise them on what the best strategy was. I wanted to be that guy who traveled to their offices in wherever they were, whether it was in, Atlanta to go see Coke, whether it was, Cincinnati to go see P&G. I wanted to be that guy. So I started to dream about those things. And that's an important thing. You always have to dream, but you also have to be careful that what you dream for does sometimes come true, right? But it's not only enough to dream, you have to put the work into that, right? You have to put the work into making those dreams come true, right? So as I started to think about marketing and getting into marketing, obviously I was very excited about that. But I also was working at my dad's restaurant at the time, right? And so the job market was not an easy job market. I was working at my dad's place, coffee shop in the Bronx, and I remember it like it was yesterday, right? It was, after a late night out, I'm at my dad's restaurant early in the morning, right? And a table comes in, right? And the waiter goes to take the order of the table that came in. And the woman turns and says, you know what? I don't want you taking my order. I want him taking my order, right? And at that point, I knew that this is not for me. I can't do this for the rest of my life, right? And so my job search, I doubled down on my job search and said to myself, hey, you know what? It's either now or never. You got to do it, And so back then, it wasn't about going onto a web page and looking for job applications or job openings and things of that nature. It was get the New York Times, go to the job section, and find the job that suits you, right? And so there was a job posting for an advertising company called Bozell, Jacobs, Kenyon, and Edcart. Now, Jim Lolis may remember that agency, but that agency was the agency that was responsible of creating the Milk Mustache campaign. So you guys may be familiar with that. They would have stars and athletes with milk mustaches and say how great milk was for you, right? And so I said, wow, this is a great opportunity. I hope to God I can get this job, right? So I apply, I faxed in my resume. Lo and behold, I got a response back, right? Who would have thought? So I go down for my interview. I remember the woman's name, Mary Ann Schiffert. She invites me up. I interview, and as we're walking to her office, she says to me, hey, George, I know you're here for the media position, right? But would you be interested in a promotional marketing position? I said, you know what? I'll do anything as long as I don't have to be in the restaurant. Whatever you want me to do, as long as I'm not in the restaurant, I'll do it. And so that one decision, right, changed the trajectory of where I went, right? Because if I didn't do that, right, I wouldn't be where I am today in the sense of being happy with what I do, being content with what I do, and being fulfilled with what I do, right? And so I made that decision at that point and said, hey, you know what? I'll do anything. I will take that opportunity to interview for that sales promotion position. And so when I did that, right, I ended up getting the job, right? And my first job within that group was managing the National Flood Insurance Co-op Advertising Program. Now, from an advertising perspective, you can imagine how exciting that is, right? Dealing with flood insurance every single day, right? But essentially what happened after that was, and something that I think everyone should focus on, is surrounding yourself with good people, right? I ended up and was very fortunate to end up with a bunch of people who were like-minded, like myself, right? We all had the same dreams and aspirations. We wanted to do things, right? And so Bozell, Jacobs, Kenyon, and Eckhart ended up being bought by another company. And that company ended up being bought by yet another company. And we were a small little group within this big, big company. And we all had this dream of saying, hey, we'd love to go out on our own and just have our own business and control our own destiny and work with the clients that we want to work with, do the work that we want to do, and kind of, whichever we want to take it, we can take it, right? And so we would go to the management team and say, hey, look, we want to buy ourselves out. And time after time, it would be, you can't. The stock multiple is X, and if you can, it's a whole story behind that. But anyway, ultimately, it ended up working out where we were able to buy ourselves out and be a private company, right? And so, from that moment of time when we bought ourselves out, over the 30 years, the 25 years, and Nick was talking about how much things have changed over time. Throughout each of our careers, I think we could all say that things have changed, right? And so, going back to promotional marketing and what we do, after that, little summary of how we got here. So my company, Tpg Rewards, as I said, we're a promotional marketing technology company. We work with companies like Johnson & Johnson, Pepsi, Coke, P&G, right? We power a lot of the loyalty programs that you see out there. So if you go to, drpepper.com right now and register on that loyalty program, that's my company's managing that, right? If you go to the P&G Good Everyday program and you register, that's, my company that's managing that. So we work with these brands and these companies to make these ideas come alive, which ultimately ends in a sale, or hopefully ends in a sale, right? So in closing, what I just want to say to everyone here tonight is, I know sometimes, when you're starting out, you may be a little confused, uncertain, right? But trust in yourself, trust in the values that have been instilled in you by this church, by your family, right? And never waver from that, because ultimately character does matter, right? Your belief in yourself does matter, right? And just reach for it and dream for it, right? And you'll be surprised, sometimes dreams do come true, right? So I don't know if you have any questions, but we could certainly guess. My St. John's alum.
So I don't know if all the kids here understand, like a customer comes to you, what do they ask, right? Like, and then what do you do for them, right? So you said loyalty program, but what does that mean specifically?
Yeah. So there's multiple elements of advertising. So let's just go back. So advertising is something that's referred to as an above the line type of discipline, right? So advertising, and Jim Lolis can come and give a masterclass on this, but advertising is something that is meant to create an impression in your mind over time, right? So, when you think of Nike, what do you think of, right? When you think of Pepsi, what do you think of? So these companies spend a great deal of money trying to build those images in your mind. But as it relates to how we work with our customers will come to us and say, hey, you know what? During the Halloween time period, we want to drive sales of M&M's chocolate. How do we do that, right? And so we'll come up with ideas and say, hey, you know what? If you do X, Y, and Z, that'll help drive sales, right? We can create loyalty programs, sweepstakes offers, things of that nature, right? So it's listening to what the client has to say, listening to what their needs are, and providing a solution. And that's another, I think, lesson as you start to embark on your professional careers is be a problem solver, right? Anyone can come to you with a problem, or you can bring a problem to anyone, right? People are great at bringing problems to you. Bring a solution. It may not be the answer, but bring something. Right? Hey, this is a problem, but I think if we do X, Y, and Z, it may solve that problem. Be proactive in your thinking. Managers respect it. Managers understand that. And it also sets you apart from everyone else, right? It's important to always think about the business as if it is your own, right? That's how you have to approach the industries that you're in. Approach it in a way where you're thinking about that business as if it's your own business, right? And when you do that, it's amazing how many people will recognize that, right? Because it's important to do that, right? You're there to put in an honest day work, for lack of a better description, but do so and be proactive in your approach to things, okay? Good question. I have, very good question. Good. Anything else? So here's, for those that are interested, and we'll talk about it in kind of the speed tables here. I will put together some information about some of the programs and campaigns that we've done, right? For those that are interested, I'll email it to you, right? What we could do subsequent to that, once you get the email, read it. If you have any questions, you want to learn about things more, feel free to reach out to me directly. We could even have a follow-up call with everybody else who's interested, and we can kind of dive deeper into some of these campaigns and these programs, all right? So hopefully you find a little inspiration in Nick's words and everybody's up here, in all of our words, because, we've been there, right? We know what it's like, but just keep persevering, keep doing what you're doing, and things will work out, all righty? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, I'm Ellen Kramezos, now Haddad. I'm a neurologist at St. Francis and North Shore Hospital's private practice, Neurological Associates in New Hyde Park on Marcus Avenue. I've been working as a physician for 12 years now, and before that, about another 12 in training. So it's a long road. If you like medicine, it's a commitment forever. It's all about tests. You're always taking tests, and you always have to pass to move on. Even now, after I finished my training, take a huge exam, and they always get harder and harder. They're always the harder. And every 10 years, I have to, get my boards and take my test again. So it never finishes. How I started, I grew up in Syosset, went to Syosset schools, and I always liked science. And there's two kinds of science medicine people talk about, clinical or non-clinical. So you could be with patients, or you could be behind the scenes in research or pharmacy or whatever other kind of medicine. So I always persisted in doing things that would make me stand out in high school to go to college. Everybody has good grades, so high scores doesn't mean anything so much, especially I think now it's even more. So everybody's good. Everybody has good scores next to you. So to make yourself unique is really for any college, not just medical school. So I did a lot of experiments, Cold Spring Harbor Lab. I did a lot of work with them as a high school student. I did college classes between my junior and senior year at Cornell. So when I went into college, I had a semester under my belt. All these things. And then, of course, your college application has to stand out somehow, not just test scores. I always, and saying this in front of this group, I always use my Greek background. It goes a long way. So it's anything you can find in yourself that makes you different, or something about your background, about being Greek, that made you have that fire to do what you want. It'll make you stand out. It gives something to talk about when you go for interviews, how you used it to better yourself, or what do you want to do in the future to help people or change the world. These things help. So it's not just about studying and getting good test scores. It's about making your whole profile. So that's from college. I went to Lehigh University from high school. From there, so during Lehigh, my senior year, I worked. Besides, I had a little leeway with classes because I already went in with credits. So I worked in a local neurosurgical group. I was like the technician. I did the paper and pencil testing for for cognitive tests. And so that was amazing because I knew by then I liked neurology, but that year it went a long way on my medical school applications. So you always have to get yourself involved. That's the one thing I can stress. There's so many programs out there. There's something for everyone. You just have to find it. So don't wait for people to tell you. Don't follow other people's tracks. Do your research. Look what's unique for you. And send your name everywhere. Call, ask, get involved. That's how I kind of found programs that helped me. So after Lehigh, I wasn't quite ready for medical school. I hadn't prepared for my MCAT. And so I took my time. There's a little part of me that wanted to make sure I was doing it for myself because my parents were very pushy to become a doctor. So I just had to take that time because it's really like your whole life. You have to like it. So you can't do it for somebody else. So I took a year, I did a master's and prepared for my exams. How I got into neurology was at Lehigh. So when I went to college, I thought I was taking Psych 101, like something everybody takes. And they started talking about neurotransmitters and receptors and how these chemicals change the way you feel and how you behave and sleep. And all this, I thought that was so interesting, that connections at the brain level affect all that. So that's how I got into neurology. And so I graduated with the neuroscience degree, and then my master's was in neuroscience. And then when I went on to medical school, I had another year. So I also, after my master's, I went to Boston. I did the, what's it called? Continuing medical at Harvard. I did public health. I didn't love statistics and public health, but I did it as a filler because I also worked. I did clinical trials at Beth Israel Hospital. So again, in only 2 years, I got my name in a neurology department hospital of Boston. I did a public health degree, and I did my master's. So you just have to find these things. They're there. You have to research and find. No one told me about them. You know, I didn't come from a family of professionals or anything. So you just have to seek, you know, and find what's going to work for you. So you have to hustle. So then, let's see. So after college, I did my master's at Syracuse. I did my public health at Harvard. And then I went to medical school at University of New England in Maine. On the beach, so it's really hard to study. But that was fabulous. Medical school was really, I felt I am where I should be. I loved it. It's all about tests. So school, study, take tests, study, take tests. And then the last 2 years, you get into more clinical and patient exams, and they have you more exposed in the hospital situations. So after medical school, you have to pick your field. I definitely knew I wanted neurology. I started the neurology club at my medical school. So that was if you know from ahead, it sort of helps, but you don't have to. If you're not a people person, people go into radiology, you know, but I definitely like to help people and explain. If I explain something to people, I feel like I help them better themselves more. So I'm definitely, I like to be in front of people. So that part I knew. So then what happened? Then I did my clinicals in New Jersey. So I was all over the place. I met people along the way. I ended up doing my neurology training at Stony Brook, which I feel like for me, everything fell into place very nicely, because when you do leave home, you don't know where, you know, and then I went to Syracuse, and then I went more north to Boston, and then I kept going north to Maine. And, you know, you want to be home, but you don't know if you'll get into these programs. There's only 2 neurology residencies in Long Island. So it was hard, it was stressful. and you're young, and these are like your best years, you know. So something, you know, went really my way, and I got into Stony Brook, and so I was back in Long Island and home, and the training went really well. It's hard, long nights. You meet amazing people that are now your friends and colleagues. And then after my residency, I ended up moving to Mississippi, all that work to get back to Long Island, just because my husband took a job in an underserved area, so that was quite an experience. So my first few years of working, I was the only neurologist for like about an hour away, like an hour radius. So that was really cool because I got to kind of be the boss as a new attending. So I figured my way around an office and managing everything and going to the hospital and being married, having kids. The whole balance act is nobody tells you how to do it. There's no formula. It just works the way it works for you. So then we spent 10 years in Mississippi and just came back to Long Island 3 years ago. So, because this is where I want my kids to grow up. So that's what brought me back here. So let's see. So yeah, so that's my path. Along the way, like I said, you meet amazing people. Small Greek world. Olga, sitting right there, I met her at Lehigh in college. And she was from Greece, and we met. We had the Greek connection. We started the Hellenic Society at Lehigh, right? We were the founders. So it goes a long way. The Greek connection really, really, it helps. And it also gives you that support, backbone, connection. It never ends. It goes from beginning to end. So that's my path. About the work itself, it's very fulfilling. Every day you feel like, wow, I did so much today. Or you don't know how you got through the week, you know, working long hours or not working long hours, all the phone calls. And so it's very fulfilling. You feel like you're doing good, you're changing, you're helping. People look up to your opinion. So if you like your field, if you like where you're at and your job environment, it's really rewarding. So, yeah, that's it. Any specific questions or? Olga? Would I do it all over? I wouldn't, but my goal is to get my kids to make their own decisions by college time and know what they're doing, not to waste that. But no, I wouldn't do it all over again because I would pick this field again. But my gosh, the years, I'm happy to be on this end of it, you know. It's hard work. I will say one thing. The humps in the road, the rejection, it's so real. How many times I failed tests or I had one last shot to make it to this class. If I didn't do good on that last test, I was out of that class. If I'm out of that class, I can't move on to the next semester of school. Even after in medical school, and then the steps you take, I think I retook one of the steps 3 times. It's not always like, it's not always going to be green light and 100% your way. And if you want it, you persevere and you make it. You keep at it. You keep trying. I always had a backup. My backup was, well, if I can't make it through medical school, I can look at PA school, still, you know, in the medical field. But I persisted, I passed, and, you know, you complete your work. But yeah, and then residency, you might not get where you want. You know, if it's a unique field, and that changes where you're going to end up. So all the networking, the connections, the path, it's never the same for anybody. There's not one straight road. Like I said, I never thought I'd live in Mississippi for 10 years, but that helped me. I mean, that helped me come back to Long Island with 10 years of experience as an attending. Like that was a huge leg up to my competition here. So anyway.
No, no, Dimitri, it's okay. We're gonna open it up just for a few minutes because we want to get to the networking part. Are there any questions for any of the panelists? Dimitri?
What's your question? How many years were you in school and how many years were you in residency? Because I don't know if all the kids appreciate.
Yeah.
the length of time.
Sure. 4 years college. I did my master's in 1. I did my public health certificate in 1. Medical school is 4 years, and then my neurology training was 4. So 4, 4, and 4.
So the question I'm going to do again is a good question because you really have to have a passion to become a doctor to go through that.
And she's an OBGYN, so she knows.
Any questions for anybody, any of the panelists up here? Yes, Tom.
Yeah, absolutely. There are definitely technology aspects to what we provide. So not to get long-winded about it, but if you remember many years ago, right? If you were participating in a promotion where purchase was required, right? Now we're going back maybe 25 years. The way that you would do it is you would fill out a mail-in form, right? You would cut out the UPCs that were on the package. You would then mail it, and then wait 6 weeks to get something back in the mail, right? You got your t-shirt, right? That's the way it was. So what we said to ourselves, right, from a technology aspect, is back in 2010, we said to ourselves, how could we apply technology to that issue that marketers are facing, that consumers are facing, to streamline that down from 6 weeks to minutes or days? And so what we said is, let's have consumers snap a picture of their cash register receipt. So if you participate in the Ibotta program, right, that's the same sort of technology. So what we said, snap a picture of your receipt, send it, email it, upload it on a program microsite. We built a technology that would read that, right? Capture the information on the receipt that said, okay, yep, he did buy P&G Bounty products, right? And then we would reward them, right, with whatever that incentive was. You know, throughout the years, that's changed, right? The core platform still remains, but now as you start to get into the information that's on that receipt, you can then build additional programs and elements onto it. But yes, to answer your question directly, technology played a big role in what we do, and it plays a big role and will continue to play a big role in marketing. The other piece of advice that I'd want to share with everyone is, you know, data, right? Learn to understand data and learn how to explain data in a simple way, right? Because data is what drives decisions, right? And it becoming more so and more so prevalent right now, where data is what is going to drive whether a person's going to do X or Y, right? But there's so much data out there that if you cannot understand it yourself, if you cannot tell the story about that data, you're at a disadvantage, right? So understand data, spend time in your studies understanding it and learning about it, because it is a key part in whatever industry that you decide to go into. It's a key part of what you're going to be what you're going to be tasked with in the future. Okay. Should we have Chris come up and sing a song? Chris, what do you say?
All right, we're all going to be here throughout the night, so you can ask us questions anytime. But why don't we get into the speed networking part of it? So everybody's at a table. Make sure that a lot of you chose career interests when you filled out the form, or if you didn't fill out the form, you filled it out tonight. Just make sure in one of these 20-minute rounds, you hit one or two of the professions that you're interested in. And look, this is going to be a two-way conversation, students, so don't just sit there and listen to what the mentors have to say. Be prepared to ask some questions too. And remember, there aren't any dumb questions. Ask anything you want. Tonight's about learning. So what we're going to do, we're going to start the clock now. And in 20 minutes, we're going to ring a virtual bell. And we're going to just all shift around so you can learn about a new profession. All right? Good. Thanks. All right, this is your 2-minute warning. 2-minute warning. Wrap up the conversations. We're going to move in 2 minutes. 2 minutes, we're going to move. All right, everybody, let's rotate professions. Everybody learn something new. Say thank you to your mentors. Okay. And students, Mrs. Caparos wants to talk about pharmacy. Pharmacy. We need students at pharmacy.
Some may not want to, which is okay.
No, they all need to learn. Yeah, probably some of the medical.
Yeah, that might have to say toss and move on, because other people may want to come to medicine.
Yeah,
You have other, yeah.
yeah. Yeah. We need to get students over there.
We need some people with the pharmacist. Go to the pharmacist. The healing medicine of drugs.
Do you want to talk the blood drive now, or?
We'll do it. How many more?
All right, let's, if everybody, oh, go ahead. Hold on, Father Johnston.
We have blood drive cards on the table. If you can take it, we're looking to get like about 75 to 80 pints of blood on the 15th. So there's a big need for blood. So please, there's a sign up sheet out there, or there's a QR code, I think, on the blood drive. I think George Patilis would like that, right? Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so why don't we, we're going to rotate to our last table, and then we're going to wrap it up for tonight. We have to get some over to the poor pharmacist.
Rotate one more table, please. One more table.